Hello everybody, it's Mr. Q again. What's up? I hope you guys are staying safe and having fun. Today, we are going to continue with the travel series. This is part 3 of the travel series. In this part, we will be talking about buying and paying for and reserving your travel and accommodation for your trip. This will be a 2-part video, so part 3 will have 2 parts. So let's talk about part 1 today, which will be about reserving and booking your airline ticket. So, paying for your airline tickets is very important. Mostly because without an airline ticket, when you fly internationally, it's going to be very difficult to go anywhere. So, right now, I want to talk about what and expand on what I've already talked about in a little bit in one of my previous videos. And let's just start with how do you find an airline ticket? There are many ways. And of course, you could always go to the airport and buy your ticket, but that's not very convenient, is it? So, most people nowadays use the internet and applications. So, some very popular sites, and remember, I don't recommend any of these necessarily, just they're very popular with many people. So you might be able to use them to help you in what you're doing. So I know I use trip.com, but many people use Expedia and WeChat, and there's just a myriad. There are many different ways that you can go online and find tickets. Especially going directly to the website of the actual airline. This is the home screen of trip.com. They also have trip.com in other languages like Chinese. And this is the homepage for the WeChat version that you can use to buy your tickets. When searching for a ticket online, you have multiple options. You can search for a ticket to only go one way. So basically, you would buy a ticket that would get you from your departure city, wherever you live, to your destination city. And that's it. One way. Of course, you would probably need 2 of those tickets because you're probably not going to stay in the place that you're going to. So you'll need to buy 2 one-way tickets, which can sometimes be less expensive, sometimes, than buying a round trip ticket. So round trip means that in the same ticket, you pay for and are able to travel both ways to and from the destination. But occasionally, you might want to stop in another city and spend some time there. And they call that a multi-city ticket, which means that you fly from one place to another, but the first place you stop is not your destination. And then, after spending some time there, you fly to the location that is your destination. So they call that multi-city. Right? So you can also select what level of ticket you want. Do you want to fly coach, which is the cheapest ticket? And there aren't very many amenities or things that are included with the coach ticket. Some airlines don't even give you water on your flight in coach. You have to pay extra for that. So you have to pay attention as to whether or not things are included. Is a snack, a meal, water, other drinks, or even baggage included in the price of your coach ticket? Sometimes you might need to upgrade to a premium ticket, or a business ticket, or a first class ticket. And each of those costs more and more money, but they all come with more and more things, more and more amenities, and more comforts.
You can see here that when you go to book your flight, you need to select one-way, round-trip, multi-city. Select the city you start in and the city you're going to. You need to select the dates of your departure and when you'll come back, how many people you're traveling with, and most importantly, what class level of seat you want. Do you want economy or coach, or do you want first class? How much do you want to pay?
When you're looking for your airline ticket, it's very important that you sort and filter your search criteria, especially because there are many different flights, but there are many different costs of each flight. So the same flight for the same seat has different costs. I don't know that anybody knows why, but this is why it's important to pay attention and sort by lowest cost. That way you can ensure that you get the lowest price for that specific seat, whether that be in coach or in first class. It's always very important to pay attention, because even if you're flying first class, you don't want to pay more than you have to pay, right? So make sure you set your filter and sort your search results. And something else that you need to think about, though, is that frequently, especially if you're flying internationally, airplanes make stops in other cities. Not for you. They don't stop because of you necessarily. They stop because that's where that route of that plane has to stop. So frequently, flying internationally, you will have a extra destination on your flight. And this may lead to a layover, because you may fly into a city. For example, maybe I'm flying from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Beijing. To get from Albuquerque to Beijing, I will have to stop at least once, maybe twice. So I may have to stop in Los Angeles and probably change flights there. Then I fly from Los Angeles and I might have to stop in Tokyo. And in Tokyo, I might have to change planes to continue my flight into Beijing. And when you have a layover, it could be for any amount of time. sometimes, usually, your layovers can be fairly quick, which means maybe you only have half an hour or 30 minutes to get from the gate that you arrived into the next gate for your next part of your flight. But sometimes your layovers will be very long. I've had layovers that lasted 16 hours. So you can almost go explore a city in that amount of time, right? So instead of buying a multi-city ticket where you intentionally fly from one city to another and spend time there, you can look at whether or not there's a layover someplace on these tickets. And then you might be able to go on an excursion and explore that city while you're there between flights. So make sure you pay attention to, is it a direct flight? You fly from Albuquerque to Los Angeles and that's it, done. Or do you have extra stops in the middle of your flight? Sometimes you have to get off your plane, sometimes you don't. And if you do, sometimes you might have to change your gate. Sometimes you even have to change your terminal. So you have to be quick, and it will be helpful for you to ask directions and not try to figure it out on your own. But an important thing to make sure you pay attention to when you're at the airport is the flight departure and arrival board. It will tell you what flights are arriving, what flights are leaving, what gate they're leaving or arriving at, what time. And sometimes you must pay attention to these because it's hard to hear the announcements in the airport. And it might not be easy to hear any changes because frequently planes change gates. So you might be going to B1, but they might change the gate to D1 or F1 or whatever. So you have to pay attention to make sure that they don't change on you.
So once you do the search, you can see all the different flights flying on the day that you want to fly. Make sure you sort them by price. Get the lowest price up first. And then you can select it and you can look at how many stops are on the flight. And you can see what kind of seating might be available. And then you can add options as well. The flight boards are very important to tell you when flights are leaving and arriving and from what gate.
I hope you guys have enjoyed learning about how to go about finding and purchasing airline tickets. This topic ended up being a little bit longer than I thought, so we're going to break this topic into two parts. So this part of the travel series will actually be 3 parts instead of 2, but that's okay. I want to review with you guys what we covered today about airline travel. Specifically, how you probably want to go about buying your tickets online or using an app. I like to use trip.com as well as the direct site, so like Air China or whatever, and see who has the best prices. But I like to use trip.com because I can pay with RMB or dollar or whatever. It's very convenient. But of course there are many other apps and websites you can use like Expedia.com and WeChat. So you just need to pay attention to what you're purchasing when you go to the airline site or to wherever you go to buy the ticket. And so you need to select, will you be buying one-way tickets or a round-trip ticket? You should check both. You never know which way will be cheaper. And if you want to see more than one city, you might want to consider doing a multi-city ticket. That way you can see multiple places on the same trip. You'll need to make sure that you are selecting which class of ticket you want. Do you want the cheapest ticket or the most expensive ticket? And you'll get your services based on that. don't forget to sort your tickets, because there will be different prices and different times and all kinds of different variables that can go into selecting the ticket that you want. So pay attention to how many stops are on your flight, because some flights, especially international flights, have multiple stops. You don't have control over those stops. You just have to go wherever they go and stop, which is different than the multi-city, because multi-city, you choose where you stop. But you need to pay attention, because you could have a very long layover in some of these destinations. So when you're flying internationally, you may have a layover and you might have to stay there for a very long time. So it's very important to know when and where you'll be stopping on your flights. All right, so today's homework. I want you guys to decide, what do you want included as part of your flight? What is important? Flying coach and saving money, or flying first class and being more comfortable? Remember, first class can be much more expensive, but I want you guys to think about what's important when you fly. Does it matter how many stops you have? Does it matter where your stops are, right? I want you to think about it. I want you to write down 10 things that you think are important when you go to buy an airline ticket. And then when you're done, share with your friends and see if you guys think that the same things are important. All right, guys, that's it for me today. I'll see you next time when we continue and finish talking about buying airline tickets. All right, bye-bye.